Hello and welcome to Cathy Paints. I'm Cathy Wappel and I have a bunch of things on my desk in front of me right now. As you can see, I have an open palette here. We will be working on the orc and the elf ranger that I've been working on the last few episodes because we're trying to, excuse my arm, we're trying to finish these guys and to make them look as good as we can. So there's a lot of smooth transitions there. Gen Con TV says, up next, Cathy Wappel paints minis and answers your burning art questions. Yes, all of the burning art questions. I will answer them. They may be not the right answers, but, you know, it's kind of what art's all about, right? It's not always the right answer. It's the one that feels good. Hi, Peter. And hi, Mark. Who else is in the chat? My chat is way over there right now, so I have to look this way. What about chatting about all the shows you have on Twitch? Fuzzy, it is, yeah, this is my Muppet sweater. This is absolutely made out of 100% Muppet skin. Mechanical Muse official, welcome in. How are you tonight? Peter Atkinson wants to know, how was Adepticon? Oh my god, Peter, it was amazing. I was so exhausted at the end, which is what happens when you have a good convention. I need to put a little water in my tea, so pardon me. And excuse me while I enjoy some hot ginger lemon tea. It's so good. Pardon me. You know, I just needed to have a little sip of that while it's still hot. We talked a lot about painting. I had a lot of hopes of painting. I set all my painting stuff up. You know, I arranged to play Warcry with friends. Uh, but you know how it is at conventions. Best laid plans always go astray. So I was hoping to paint this orc bust, this guy, or at least to maybe prime him. But as you can see, he's not even put together yet. No primer, no paint. Poor guy. He he lives in hope that someday I'll get to him. Peter says, I know how it is. I was at GaryCon. Oh, I saw everybody's posts from GaryCon, and my heart wanted to be there with everybody. But alas, it can only be in one place at one time. I'm hoping that the dates for next year aren't on the same weekend so that I can make both these conventions. That's that's the dream. That's the dream. So okay, we painted green skin. We finished his green skin. I started blocking in some loose shadows and highlights on the sword. Sword. I'm staring at it. It's an axe, not a sword. I know the difference. I know the difference. Uh, this guy, for instance, has swords. This guy has an axe. Unless there are two or more. I'm sure there are two or more Peter Atkinsons. hmm Not counting the clones. Today, I'll show you what I was working on my earlier stream today because I stream on my own channel in the afternoons. So I I started painting finally after years of having this sitting around. This cute little cube. It's just a little cube that a friend of mine sculpted for me. And it's just so cute. And I finally got paint on it. It's not finished, but at least it's started now. So I was happy to get paint on that. We're going to set him aside because we're not working on him right now. And then and then this this lady and her pet, and we're not sure if this is it a dog? Is it a cat? It's a diseased cat dog. It is a diseased cat dog. We're calling her. What are we calling her? Bline. Her name is Bline, and this woman doesn't yet have a name. She's very hag-like. You can see she's extra well endowed. This is a, so this is I did a primer on her. I was assembling her last week in my other stream. I did some primer today. I did a couple of quick dry brushes of a couple different colors on her just to bring out some of the details. Uh, so then we'll add some more color. I forgot to do the same thing to this guy while I was painting it, but I kind of want to paint this like it has Siamese cat, like seal point Siamese colors on it. So its tail will be dark and its horns will be dark, and then they'll go to a light sort of cream color, and then then there will be these hideous lesions. So this model is from a box of Nurgle things from Games Workshop. So they're they're for Warhammer Underworld's Beastgrave game. They are called the Worm Spat. They are huge and bloated and full of sores because Nurgle is the god of plague. So they're going to be disgusting. They're going to be hideous. Paul wants to know, what are your thoughts on airbrushes? I wish I knew how to use one, is my main thought. I've seen a lot of amazing work with airbrushes, and I would like to learn how to use one, and someday, I will learn without dumping paint on my husband's leg, like I did the one time I used one. I just had paint in the cup, and he asked to see the airbrush, and I handed it to him, and there was paint in it still, and he went to look at it, and it was red. Okay, it was. Hold on, do I still have it right here? Yeah, it was this color. See, this color, fresh blood, dumped all over his leg. Oh, hey, Diomedes Industries. How are you tonight? So yes, I I am all for airbrushes, you know. Good for priming stuff, good for doing detail stuff, depending on what scale you're working at. They can be fantastic. I imagine they're good for things that are this size. I don't know because I don't know how to use them yet. Yet. I think I need a solid airbrush class is what I need. So, yeah, this is one of the other things that I was painting today. This is from the game Conquest. It's a tabletop war game. And their new faction that came out last year, I think, is called Wardrune, and they are like orcs, basically. But their orcs ride dinosaurs. So this is a beautiful dinosaur mount, but this is the alternate head. the model comes with optional heads, and my friend used the other head, so he gave me this one, uh, so that I could just do whatever on it, like a bust. And so that's what I'm doing. Paul Johnslow, hey Paul. No red paint in Fort Wappel, I've heard. Yeah, yeah. Things seem to happen to my husband in Fort Wappel whenever red paint is around. Uh, he just it spills on him, it spills on his models. It's just we do use red, but there there are stories. There are stories. I spilled on him. A friend of ours spilled on him. He's spilled on him. Yeah. Dad says, I don't want no stale blood. Yeah, it's only fresh blood for you, Diomedes Industries. It's only fresh blood for you. Okay, so oh, we're doing leather today. Now that I've just shown you all the stuff that I was working on earlier today, I got to get my head back into what we're doing with these guys. We're painting leather. And since all I did was assemble models last week, I still have my palette set up from last week when I was mixing leather together. So we had purple, we had magenta, we had orange, we had yellow, we had green, and all we did was mix more purple with our orange here. I might have added a little. No, I don't think I added magenta. And then over here we had more orange than purple. So this is a lighter, more orangey brown, and this is a darker brown. But they're both really rich, warm brown colors. And I love those colors for leather. Diomedes Industry says Cathy only needs magenta. Is that why there's only magenta? Says Gel Tip. Oh, hi, Gel Tip. Welcome in. Welcome. I feel like Gel Tip stole my bottle of magenta when we were at Adepticon. I'm throwing you under the bus, Gel Tip. I lost my I lost my magenta. So clearly, the only explanation is that Gel Tip stole it. Ty Cloud, you were at Adepticon? Awesome. I had a blast. I had a blast there. What were you doing there, Ty? If you don't mind. Paul Paul Hostetler. Cathy, can you tell me more about your magnifying headset and how you use it? Uh, this is about the cheapest $11 magnifying visor that you can get. I got it at a jeweler's store because the friend of mine works there, and I saw it, and I saw the rubber block, the rubber jeweler's block. This is a great thing to use for when you're assembling models. They come in a few different shapes. They're really hard rubber, but what you can do is if you have metal models, you have resin or something, if you need to saw anything off or put pressure on it, it's really easy, especially if you have to use like a knife to carve things. And you can, when you hit this, it's a little easier if you're leaning your hand on this and you're aiming your knife this way. Uh, it's not going to skip off of this, and you just get better leverage with your hand for when you're doing things like pinning models and stuff. And I highly recommend that for when you're assembling your models. It's fantastic, very useful. And if you're pinning models and or bases that you're going to be pinning things to, you just put them on there. You don't have to worry about the drill going into your table or anything. So, have you really? I was looking. Hold on. Let me just clear this. I have a chat going. I had a chat going in front of me from my last stream. and I rated somebody else. So there's a whole different chat going on right here, and my reflex is to look at this chat over here, not the chat that is over there on my other monitor. So yeah, that was the thing I almost did. I almost answered a question in somebody else's chat. So yeah, but yeah, the visor is just, it's got one lens here and it has another lens that flips down to give you extra magnification. Uh, Mine broke off, so I don't have that one anymore, but I need it so that I can see up close to what I'm doing. I have a fancier visor, but when I'm streaming, I need to be able to also read the chat, and my other visor doesn't flip up like this, so I can't use it when I'm streaming. I also have a magnifier light. It's a 3 times diopter lens. It's about this big, and it has a light bulb. It has LED lights that go around it. LED lights don't heat up as hot as incandescent lights. I don't recommend getting any magnifying light that has incandescent lights in it because it's going to be really warm and your paint is going to dry that much faster on your model if it's right next to one of those. Uh, the trick with a magnifier light is you need to adjust it. You have to figure out how you sit, and then you have to move the light so that it's right up next to your nose and you're looking right through it like this. And then when you hold your model down here, you're less likely to bang into the magnifier light. A lot of people think they need the light way down next to their model, but no. You need the light way up next to your face. That way you're not going to, you'll still occasionally knock the end of your brush against it. It's just, but it's such a huge help. It's such a huge help in seeing all those tiny little details if you really want to get close up and personal. I recommend it. In fact, I have used my visor and my magnifier light at the same time when I really want to get, you know, a laser beam focus on some really fine details. Diomedes Industries says yes, and it's also useful if you're old. If you're, yeah, if you're old and your eyes are, weaker, you need bifocals, like this girl. I was playing Bushido in Infinity. Oh no. Sorry to hear that you're sick. I hope you feel better soon. Gel Tip says, I don't even know if I own one, but now I have to go look. Oh, was it clear magenta? It was clear magenta. Gel Tip. It was clear magenta. All right. So we're doing leathers, and I want to remix my browns. So we need purple. All these colors from last week dried except for my magenta because magenta is a magical color and it never dries unless you want it to. No, I'm joking. That is not true at all. I need purple. So we have clear purple, and I just picked up the blue, which is not what I wanted. Orange. Where's my orange? All right. So these are Reaper. These are Reaper paints. Reaper Master Series paint, I guess. Yeah. Maybe I look at the label that doesn't have paint all over it. Master Series paint from Reaper. Clear orange. I love these paints. I like to mix paint. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts about the hobby is mixing the paint. So I don't have a ton of different colors of paint. I have these 9 Reaper colors, and I mostly just use those. Unless I want to do something crazy like I did today, where I used a bunch of other colors. This color, I started out with just the primer, and then I used the Achillean green shade contrast paint from Games Workshop, and I also mixed in. This is the color I used. It was the Achillean green contrast paint, and then it was also Pro Acryl blue and Reaper Clear magenta, and I mixed them all together in here to make this beautiful sort of almost a, well, this color. And it stained, and then it also left a darker color in the recesses. And then I also wiped off, I used a makeup sponge to wipe off the lighter areas. So makeup sponge will wipe that darker paint off of the lighter, off of all these textures, leaving it in the recesses even more. So we did that. It's dry now. It's not doing anything. I don't know why I'm doing that. I guess I was just demonstrating that. So Paul says I prefer Vallejo myself and Picorni paints for terrain. Picorni paints for terrain. Gel Tip says transparent blue from Pro Acryl, I think. Yeah, the transparent blue. I have the red in front of me for some reason, and I put the blue away. That was the Pro Acryl, but I just used the blue, not the red. And then I used some Vallejo glaze medium to thin it down in some places on the model. Golden has good stuff. The Golden high flow acrylics can be fun for miniature painting. I used to have a ton of artist acrylics from Golden and Liquitex, and when I first started painting miniatures, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I knew how to paint on canvases, but I didn't know how to paint on miniatures. And it turns out that it's not quite the same. All those thick transparent colors, no matter how many layers of color I put on a model, it just wouldn't look right. They were pasty, they were glossy, and I didn't at the time, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. So if you've never painted miniatures before, I don't recommend using artist acrylics. In fact, I recommend against using artist acrylics. If you're learning how to paint miniatures, there are a ton of different miniature companies that make miniature paints that are formulated specifically for painting miniatures. So you can find one among many of them. There are more expensive ones and there are less expensive ones. And some of the less expensive ones are better than some of the more expensive ones. So show us something you've painted on a canvas. Haha, I don't have anything near me that I painted on a canvas, but I do have some practice. I have some practice paintings that I was doing for a project that I can show you. I just painted these on the back of mat board, uh, and these were my Spacescape paintings. This is my first one I did. I was just figuring out how to do it, and so that's my first one. And then this was my second one. So a little bit better, but still not, I still wasn't satisfied with how that was turning out. Try and get that further away from the, maybe I can zoom out. Let me zoom out so you can see that better. So there it is. And then this is the third one I did. I felt like I was getting a little bit better composition and colors in that one. And I had two other ones I did. But I'm not sure where they ended up. They're here somewhere. They're here somewhere. I don't know where. But that was actually for a miniature project that I had been working on. Oh, you can see my more of my desk now that I'm zoomed out. These are the paints that I use. Oh, I thank you, Paul. Thanks. So I have purple and orange on my palette. I'm going to move some of this over. So the stuff I was working on earlier today was just kind of a warm up because I hadn't painted it during the weekend. So purple and orange. So we'll take a bunch of orange here. And we'll take a tiny little bit of purple, more purple. Purple's not as strong as blue, but it's still pretty strong. So you can see this is getting darker in value and it's more muted. The vibrancy of the color is a bit more muted. It's starting to look like brown. We add a little more purple to it. So I want to make a leather color. That's what I'm doing. So this is a nice leather color. And then I'm going to make one that's more purple. Well, we'll just do all purple and with a little bit of orange. I'm hitting my dinosaur's head. Better move that out of the way too. Okay. So this is a darker. You can see that this is a darker value. It's darker brown because there's more purple in it. But it's still really nice warm brown. If you had done orange and blue, you'd still get brown, but it wouldn't be quite this orange. Now we can mix that up. We can certainly do a blue. I have blue on my palette here. So we can take a little bit of blue. And some orange. So this blue is almost like a greenish color. We'll put a little more orange in it. It's like a green brown. So it's still brown, but it's a different tone. See, there's a red brown with the purple. It's more of a green brown with the blue. They'd all be good for leather. Hi, Rathmore. Yeah, it's sick brown. Yeah, Taco Bell brown. We're making brown today. I already did some brown on his boots, and we can do a different shade of brown up here. That can make things visually interesting. You can use that darker red brown in some areas. You can use the lighter brown in other areas, or you can use one as a highlight and one as a shadow. on a single type of leather, and that will just make your leathers, they'll be kind of harmonized. They'll look like they belong together on a model. Now these are all colors that I've used on the model already. The orange and green I used on the skin for the orange and blue. So it was blue, orange, green, purple, magenta, yellow, and white. And that's pretty much all I've used on this model so far. But we do want a little bit of a white color on the ruff of his fur. So maybe we do that too. Or let's see, does he have a black studded leather skirt? I feel like maybe he does. Maybe that's a black leather or a really, really dark brown leather. Rathmore said, "So what is our antlered friend screaming?" Dow says, "He's yelling, 'I'm going to hit you with this stick.'" Who pooped in my garden? You know what? You know who did it? It was Rocky. So we have Bullwinkle, and this is Rocky. Uh, yeah. You just can't take him anywhere. You can't take a dark elf anywhere. They never know what's. They think everywhere is a cave. All right, so let's think about how we want to approach a really dark leather color that's almost black. I feel like I want to try with green and blue and magenta. That's almost like the same color we used on our dinosaur, so I feel like that's maybe not the way to go. Maybe we need some more orange here. We get some more orange on our palette here. I didn't want to call in the red. So we're using orange to deep purple or deep blue it. Deep blue, deep, yeah. We're just making it dark. A little bit more orange. Now, the orange isn't the thing making this dark. The orange is actually making it slightly lighter. But it's making it look less of that really vibrant blue color. It's kind of a dark green now. But I like it. So we'll keep it. We're going to do this on this guy's skirt. I mean, we could call it a kilt, but really it's not. It's not a kilt. He also has chainmail right here. So we want a little bit of a gray. To that end, what if I mix some of this color with that white? Oh look, it's gray. So maybe I should dry brush that on though. Maybe I should use the dark color first and then dry brush. Okay, so we're just gonna do all of this dark color. I needed a dark color to throw up on up here too. Something dark up there. I was very unsatisfied with where my lights and darks ended up on this last week, so as is the nature with non-metallic metal, things will be adjusted over and over again until I feel like it looks right. And I can't explain to you when it looks right or not. Like how do I know? I don't know. It's a weird thing with non-metallic metals. I'm not good at explaining that. And there are other people who I've asked who do amazing tutorials about metals, and I'm like, how do you, and they're just demonstrating what they do. But I asked the guy, how do you determine where you're going to put your lights and darks, your reflections? And he was like, well, it's just a random thing. See, this seems a little better now all of a sudden than it did. Maybe I shouldn't be painting it with my mixing brush. So this is my mixing brush. It's terrible. It's seen better days. It's pretty crappy. Uh, so I only use it for mixing. I have other brushes that I use for actually applying paint. And so I'm asking myself, why? Why are you doing this with the mixing brush? So we're going to just get this dark paint on here. Now, these are Reaper Clears, which means that that first layer is going to be not transparent, but you will be able to see some of the values and color from underneath showing through. And this is one of the things I like about Reaper Clears. And the more you add, like once this dries, the more paint I add to these areas, the more opaque it's going to get. I see that there's fur right here, and I was just painting over that. I did paint his little purple pantaloon. His one little area where he's showing his little pantaloons. So I painted that purple last week because I had purple going on my palette. And sometimes that is the reason why I pick a color, is because I have it going on my palette. It's just there. So I'll just use it. 9 times out of 10, it's because there's another color that I put on my model that uses that color, which only works to my advantage, because if I'm using the same color in a few different mixes, that means that those different colors and those different areas on the model are they're gonna look like they belong together. There's gonna be that harmony over across the whole model. As we like to say in our household, my husband and I, uh, if a color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. So if a color goes somewhere on the model, you need to at least have it someplace else on the model for that balance, for that harmony. Otherwise, it's just going to look out of place. It's going to be a distraction. And I'm going to use this as an extra shadow on his pouch too. So I just define this little button on his pouch and the shadow of the flap, so you can see the flap a little better now. And that's just something we'll do to define different details, is just add a little extra shading around the edges. Paul says, are you using your magnifiers on this work you're doing? Yes. Every time you see my eyes, every time you see these eyes, that's because my magnifier is down and I'm looking at through my magnifier visor at my model. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to see all those little details. I feel like my focus is maybe a little bit off here. Adjust that a little. Maybe it's not. Paul says, yeah, I'm just trying to decide whether or not I should pick one up. Well, they're about 10 or 11 bucks on Amazon to get just a cheap magnifier visor like this one. And this is good enough for me, but they do make other more powerful ones. that, you know, that people like. Rathmore is right. Yes, get one. You will not regret it. Rathmore, I swear, the words were coming out of my lips right as you typed that. I glanced up and it was just coming out of my mouth right as that showed up. Jinx. Jinx. Reduces eye strain, reduces neck and back strain, says Rathmore. I hadn't even thought about that aspect of it, but that is true. That is true. Yeah, if you're going to be painting miniatures, definitely look into getting a visor or a magnifier light. Or both, like me. Now, when I'm streaming, I don't use my magnifier light because otherwise the light, you know, burns out the whole color on the model. It doesn't play well with my camera. But if I'm not streaming and I'm painting, then I absolutely will use my magnifier light. The first time I looked through the magnifier light at one of my models that was finished, I couldn't believe how many little things I saw that needed fixing. So I was like, oh wow, that's really rough. I need to fix that. That's not done. How did I even think that was done? So yeah, we can already see on this how the dark skirt is standing out from other parts of it. I'm going to add a little more shadow. I'm going to add some more paint just into the little wrinkles in the fabric. This area right around where the fur is, just to accentuate, you know, where each material ends and the next one starts. And I need to do the underneath of this. I didn't do the underneath. These are Frameworks models. I don't think I mentioned that yet today. These are the Frameworks models that are the D&D models sold by uh, WizKids. It's not their pre-primed ones. The words are not coming out of my mouth the way I want them to this evening. Uh, they're not the pre-primed ones. These come on a sprue. You assemble them. There are a few different choices. You have options. This guy had a different head. I wanted the head with the moose horn, because why would you not want the moose horns, right? On an orc barbarian. So yeah, moose horns. They were easy to assemble. I used plastic glue on them. They were easy to clean. I have a few other ones that I'll be painting here at some point besides these two. One of them that I want to do is the hill giant. Maybe we make his belt black too. I'm liking the idea. I was going to do his belt brown, but now I like the idea of making it black. And then his boots are brown. Or maybe I just leave it. Maybe I leave that alone. And that's the only black part. Maybe the top of his hat is black. You know what? We'll make the top of his hat black because, you know, we want harmony. And while I've used all the colors I have used to mix this color appear in other places on the model, this black, I keep calling it black, but it's not black. It's not black at all. It's just a dark color. It's a random dark color that I got from mixing, 4 other colors. Or was it 3? 4. 3? It was blue, green, and orange. I think it was only 3 colors. See, as parts of this dry, I can put extra layers on there. Now when we go in to work on the antlers, we've got the helmet separated from them distinctly. I'm going to add a little more to this area to darken that. And you can see that just by adding a little extra pigment to this area, it makes it more opaque. It's just building up the opacity. There was a top knot on this guy's hat, and it broke off. There was a top knot. He had this flowing hair. It was really cool, but it broke off because it's so skinny right there. And I decided, somebody said, you could pin that. You could pin it in. And I was like, nope, not going to pin it. Paul Hostetler says Hobby Lobby has one. Maybe a large local game store. Maybe. Yep. Hey, Cosmonaut. How are you doing tonight? Cosmonaut says, would love to try the visor. Where do you find something like that? Just Amazon these days? Okay. Yeah, Hobby Lobby. I'm sure Michael's has them. There are game stores that do miniature or model train stores. If you have a hobby store that does a lot of model railroad stuff, they would have them. I got mine at a jewelry store, not a jewelry store like a jeweler's supply store is where I got mine, along with snippers and a little tiny needle nose pliers, which is handy for this hobby. And my rubber block, which I was talking about earlier tonight. This is the rubber block, which when you're assembling models, this is very helpful. Gives you extra leverage. The tea is still hot. Well, warm. It's warm. Warmish. Not tepid yet. It's a little warmer than tepid. Hashtag dark color. Yes, hashtag dark color. I want to build up my dark color though, because right now it almost looks green like his skin, and I don't want it to look just like his skin. I feel like perhaps I needed to put purple in it. What if purple? Hmm? Let's find out. Because I can do just a little glaze with purple. Why is purple not coming out of my bottle? When you're using nozzle bottles like this entire part comes off. So if you're squeezing it and not much is coming out, don't squeeze harder. Do not squeeze harder. Get something like this or a paper clip. Stick it in the nozzle. And otherwise, accidents will happen. And they'll be awful accidents. Things like red paint splattering everywhere. No one wants that. There we go. See, problem solved. Do not force paint out of a nozzle bottle. You will be disappointed. You will cry. Your models will cry, your clothing will cry, your desktop will cry. There will be lots of crying. Oh, hey, Gel Tip. No, we're not crying because you made it back. Honest. Honest. Totally not crying because you're back. Okay, so I mixed a little purple in with my other dark color. So this will be less like his skin color, and I wanted to avoid it being so like his skin color. And the orange mixed with the blue was making it more green. So now we're moving away from that, and that's a good thing. And this is a good thing. I'm going to do the same thing down here. On his skirt. Then after that, I'm going to do some dry brushing in order to pick out the studs on this studded leather, because now that I've painted the shadows over them, you almost can't see those studs at all. So they need a little help. And we need to dry brush on this chainmail on the front of him too. We can't forget that. A little dry brush is going to change the brownish nature of the highlights on this too a little bit. I'm going to try not to hit the boots, but you know, accidents might happen, and that's okay. The question is, do we want this part to be darker? Yeah, sure. I think I had some lint on my brush there. No, no, okay. No, I didn't. I'm not gonna be dry brushing the helmet because I don't want to hit the skin. So I'll have to do my highlights there a little differently on that part, and that's okay. But is this part darker? Well, it is when I accidentally paint over it. I like this. I think I'd like this to be that lighter brown color, but I'll just do a little shading here. We'll just do some shading here. These places, it's going to be a little darker in these areas. I already got that part dark last time, apparently. So let's see about dry brushing his skirt and bringing back up those studs. Paul goes, anywho, off to guitar lessons. Thanks for the show. Hey, Paul Hotsteller, uh, thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us. Have fun at guitar. The thing is this also black? I feel like this should be black too. So let's get a little more of our dark color and mix it with a little purple. And we'll build up the black on the bracer too. And we'll also hit that a little bit with the dry brush while trying not to mess up the skin. Famous last words, right? Try not to mess up the skin. This is quite the pile of swords here. We'll just do a little bit of shading here on these sword hilts while we're waiting for the bracer paint to dry so that I can build up the shadows there. We'll just define the area in between all these sword hilts. Put a little shading on the end of that one. Put a little shading on the end of that one. Gel Tip says I feed on the tears at my presence. Aw, that's so sweet. I'm glad you derive pleasure in, in the misery of others. Aw. And I'll just beef up these dark areas on the underside of the axe. I still don't like that, how stripy it is. I'll just get rid of that one. Or tone it down maybe. We'll just tone that one down. That guy's he's coming along. Alright, dry brush. Let's see. What color do we want to do? Do we just wanna put some white in with the our dark color? I think maybe. Maybe yes. Maybe that's it. So I have titanium white here. I have blue. I have green, purple, orange. I'm mixing it. I just mixed all those colors together over here with white. So we have a nice gray shade. Do I want it to be lighter? I'm not sure if I want it to be any lighter than that in value. We'll try that. See how it looks. We'll see if we like it. I'll get my dry brush out. Dry brush is different from my other brush. The bristles are stiffer on this than they are on my regular brush. It's wider. Nerdhalla, welcome in. Hi. How are you tonight? What are you up to this evening? I'm about to do some dry brushing. I want to get uh, this little bit of chainmail that's right here. And I want to be sure and get all the little wrinkles in the fabric and all the studs. I think I'll go over the studs again with a lighter color and maybe finish them off with a dot of white on each one too, just to really, make them look like metal studs. If we feel like we've gotten a little carried away with some highlights and they've got overpowered the darks, we can always go back in and tone that down. So I may tone down a few areas of darks in a few places. We're gonna hit the top of his helmet here. I know I said I wasn't gonna do this on the helmet, but you know what? I feel like we have some control here. We have a little brush control here. We can do this. It's really subtle. Very subtle. So we'll go in here, we'll do a little bit more dark, then we'll amplify the studs, the metal studs. Nerd Hollow says, I'm eating a cupcake and getting ready for D&D. Oh, sweet. What are you playing in D&D? Are you running it? Or are you playing in it? What's your character? Tell us. Tell us. It's okay if you talk with your mouth full. None of us can actually hear you. Also, I want to know what kind of cupcake you're eating. You DM a homebrew campaign called The Tribe of Idiots. Oh, that sounds glorious. The Tribe of Idiots. I can get behind that. My friend, actually, Diomedes Industries, who was just in the chat earlier, he runs an all Kobold campaign. He's using the Kobold Press stuff, and we're all playing Kobolds, and it's very silly, and we're all complete idiots. I'm not sure if I'm saying that about the players or the characters. I can't decide. Alright, I'm just gonna throw a bunch of purple in with that greeny color. Hey, Dio. Dio says kobolds, kobolds, kobolds. Why not both? Why not? Why not the party and their characters are both idiots? That's fair. That's fair. In our last episode, I, as a cleric, ended up sipping tea while the rest of the party was almost annihilated. And the game master kept asking me, so, do you think you want to try and go into this room where, you know, your friend is? And I'm like, how long has it been? See, they're in combat and they're in rounds, and I'm up away from that having tea with another person. And he's like, well, in real time, it's only been like 12 seconds. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not worried. I haven't seen him in 12 seconds. What's the big deal? The next round comes around. He's like, are you sure you don't want to go check on your friend? I'm like, what has it been? Like 30 seconds? He goes into a room and 30 seconds later, I'm worried about him? I don't think so. So they almost all died, but they didn't. They all survived, even though the cleric was not there. Hey, Kate. Kate says this guy's really coming together, looking good. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun to paint. And it's been really fun having all you people along for the ride while I'm doing it. So I'm going to refine some of my highlights here. Just do a little edge highlight right there. Do a tiny little brush strokes down here. bring that out. I feel like this is maybe what we needed. Use the side of the bristles just to hit some of the textures on the mail, the chainmail. Sometimes using the side of the brush is a better idea than using the tip of the brush, depending on what you're trying to do. If you have a lot of raised texture, sometimes that the side of the brush, just gently going across that texture will pick out those details rather than trying to pick them all out with the tip of the brush individually. So we did that dry brush and it did pick out a little bit more details, and I'm just refining that right now with that lighter color. And we'll go in and hit those dark colors again too. And then we'll go in and do some dots on all these studs. So we got our dark color. Let me make sure my brush is rinsed out. We got our dark color. Oh, thank you so much for the follow on my personal channel, Kate. I stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday on Cathy Wappel, on the Cathy Wappel Twitch channel, and so you can find me there during the week. This is my 2 for Tuesday, 2 streams on Tuesday, with a little bit of time for dinner in between. Tonight, it was the Dinner of Champions, macaroni and cheese. Living like kings we are. Macaroni and cheese. You know, sometimes you just want to go for that classic comfort food, right? I feel like I want to do a thin glaze of this dark color. So I'm going to add extra water, a little bit of water to this to thin it down. And just hit a few of these areas again. Just to tone down my highlight in a few places where I feel like I went a little overboard with my highlights. It's going to make the transition from light to dark a little smoother too. Okay. Now we're going to use that same gray and we're just going to hit the dots on the studs. Kate says, I love the detail you've created on the axe blade. That's really neat. Oh, thanks. We call that non-metallic metal. When you're not using metallic paints to make that illusion of something being metal. So I still need to refine it a lot. But yeah, I feel like mostly the main lights and darks are already kind of in the right place. There's always some back and forth. I may want to add a little reflection from the antler, so maybe like there'll be a little more brown in this part, where maybe the light from the antler just sort of reflects here. Maybe on the underside there will be whatever color the base is. It's funny because usually I paint the base first, and for some reason I ended up painting the model first this time around. So I don't know. It's never the same. It's never the same twice, the way I do things. Which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I don't know. Let's get this gray going here before it dries on the palette. And we're going to just hit every one of these little studs. I finished watching Reacher last night. And man, I really enjoyed that show. I have to say, it was a lot of fun. I've read some of the Preston and Childs books, the Agent Pendergast books, which I enjoyed, but I never read the anything with the Jack Reacher character. So, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. I don't know if anybody else has been watching that. But that's what I was doing last night. No, it wasn't last night. It was Sunday night after my podcast. Okay, now there's a couple areas where I'm just guessing there's studs because I'm like, I feel like there should be a stud in the pattern right here, but it looks kind of flat. So, not every sculpt is perfect, right? We're going to throw some white on these too, just a little dot of white, as a highlight for some of this metal. It's difficult to see where some of these are. This is the not super exciting part where I'm just putting dots on the model. So, yeah. There are a few places here where it seems like maybe they're too close together, but then I'm not sure. I think in the end it's gonna look fine and not like polka dots. So right now I'm like, I kind of feel like I missed my chance to make his pants pink, with polka dots, with little white polka dots, because that would have been adorable. Oh, Bullwinkle, I feel like we really missed a chance here. So sad. I also feel like maybe there's one right here, and I don't know why there's not one there, so I'm just going to put one there. I'm going to paint it on. So there. Ooh, I want to do that gray highlight up here on this part too. I almost forgot. a little edge highlighting. And then just doing some tiny little brush strokes here, trying not to hit the skin. And a little more edge highlighting right there. Careful. And then maybe we just put a little bit of a highlight up here. Glaze it. Try and get that edge before it dries. If not, then I can go in with my darker color again. Smooth that transition out. My moose antlers got in the way of my brush right there. Silly moose antlers. He's snazzy and fashionable. If only it had been pink with white polka dots. That would have made it. We need white now. I have white on my palette. I need a better place to put it. If it ends up being tinted by this blue that I have on my palette, that's not a bad thing either. If I accidentally get a tiny smidge of blue in it. Actually, I like the idea of that, so I'm going to just bring some of that over there. I mean, it still looks white, but it is just ever so slightly off-white to the cooler side of things, to the blue side. Alright, so I want little dots. I'm going to put a little dot right on the snap of his pouch too. I'm going to run the side of my bristles in a couple places on this chainmail to make it look like there's some reflection happening here. There, we got a little bit of reflection there. It's going to look like chainmail there. Now we're just putting a dot right at the top of every one of these little studs. It's going to get that little reflection. And so I have to hold my breath when I'm doing this, because otherwise my hand will move. If I'm breathing, if I'm talking, my hand will move. And I want to do these tiny little dots. So far, so good. Not a dot. Not in the right place, that one. Alright, I think I missed one there. Mostly they're at the top of the stud, but there's a couple of studs where, because of the wrinkle in the fabric, the stud was facing up. So I felt like there might be more reflection on it than just the part that's at the top of the stud. But maybe I just like saying stud over and over again. I don't know. We're almost done with this part. And I can breathe again. JV, JV, hi. JV in. JV is one of our other lovely hosts on Gen Con TV. Ooh, JV, what do? What's your show? Tell us about it. Tell us. Tell us. We want to know. I got this new flavored water today, and it's orange and grapefruit flavored, and it's delicious, let me tell you. Alright, so we have studded leather, we have chainmail, we have a snap here. We haven't painted his teeth yet. Also, this dark leather color is one that I absolutely wanted to do on Rocky as well. I thought he would look good with that nice dark black leather look. But I'm into this guy. We're gonna paint the fur now. We're gonna paint the fur. So I feel like I need a light color there for that. A light color that's a warm color. So we want white. We want white, and maybe I just mix in a little bit of this brown. You know, the purple and orange brown. To make a nice warm sort of color. Yeah. Does it need to be darker? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll just mix a little more in. See how we feel. Oh, maybe that's too warm. Maybe I need a tiny smidge of blue. Do I need a tiny smidge of blue? Yeah. So it's like a warm gray. It's a really warm gray is basically what this is. And it's a really light color. It's sort of a creamy color. Zumaniac says this looks amazing. How long does it take to finish it? I have been painting this guy on my Tuesday night stream. This is the 4th week that I've been working on him. Uh, so 2, 4, 6, I guess probably 8 hours. I've also been working on this guy too, a little bit. I haven't worked nearly as much on him. I think I spent the most time on the skin, getting the skin finished. And then we've just been working on leathers today. So now it's time to do fur. Are you a mini painter, Zumaniac? Okay, so a light color. Do I dry brush my light color on? No, that would be difficult. What if I get the white color on my brush and I do that using the side of the bristles? I'm using my thumb to get the excess paint off. And then I'm going to just use the side of the bristles carefully. It's almost like it's a careful targeted dry brush as opposed to the kind of a dry brush where you think about people just going all over a whole model. Which I can show on the next models that I'll be painting. Once I finish these, then I'll show you how I set up the lighting, the underpainting of the lights and darks on models. We'll do a little bit of speed painting on some models. I don't know how speedy it'll be. This is kind of my normal way of painting, but there are faster ways to get the job done. They're maybe not as, you know, not as much of an eye to detail, but sometimes you don't need that. If all you're doing is putting it out on the tabletop and you don't necessarily want the fanciest paint job, you just want to get them done. It all depends on what you're using them for, right? How do I get my brush in there? That's the question. I'm just gonna fake like I'm painting fur right here. That's a little flat spot too. I think that's an area where one of the optional parts could have been glued. Is right in that area. We're gonna build up our lighter color. This is like we did with Rocky's hair when we did that white hair. We'll just build up that lighter color on the top part of this fur. It'll give it volume. Zoomaniac says, no, don't paint miniatures, but I'm interested. Kate says, I believe you can't rush quality. You definitely can't rush quality. Uh, so yeah, there are ways to do quality paint jobs, and there are ways to do quantity paint jobs, and there are ways to do quantity paint jobs that look, not that great, and there are ways to do it where they still look okay. They look good. If you're standing at the table, you can tell that the skin is green and the leather is brown, and you know, and have it still look nice. And sometimes you just want to paint because you just want to have the fun of, putting colors on a model. And I know there's a lot of people that I know that just they just do that for the love of the hobby, and maybe they want to get better, and maybe they don't care, and that's fine either way. Everybody's on a different journey, with this hobby. I never did go back to this bracer with my with my shadow color. I was waiting for it to dry, and then I got distracted by other things. What a shock. Distracted by other things? What? That never happens to you, Cathy. Ever. Okay, that's better. That's better. We're going to fill in a little bit of this fur. So there's some parts of the fur that we're leaving the dark color in the crevices, in the deepest recesses of these textures. And there's other areas where we're filling in those areas with our lighter color. And that's also going to give it a little more volume. And there's fur under here. And I wanted to get that detail. Just with a few dots, a few lines, a few dots. There's a skull on this too, and I guess the skull is going to have to be white-ish. I hate to use the word white because it's not really going to just be white. I'm not going to paint it white. My lightest highlights might be white, but mostly it's going to be other colors that have white in them. Just like my black does not have black in it. Well, in this case, my black doesn't even have a little black. It doesn't have any black. There's no black on this model. No black has been harmed in the painting of this model. I blame that entirely on my high school art teacher who never let us use black. Like, ever. So we had to learn how to mix our colors, getting a dark color, and he gave us ideas of how we could do that, what colors might work for that, and so that's what we had to do. And it's just so ingrained in me now because I had well 2 years. My junior and senior year in high school was all art classes with Mr. Zeller. So, and I had a bunch of them. And that's where I learned how to mix paint, and that's why I like mixing paint so much. Like I said earlier in the show, that is one of my favorite parts about the hobby. So somehow this skull is attached to this. I'm not sure how. I don't see any straps or anything, but I guess we'll figure it out as we go. And in these top areas, I am adding my lighter color down into the recesses. Not all the recesses, but some of them. So it looks fluffier. It looks lighter on the top than it does on the bottom. It starts getting darker down here. And there's more shadow in the texture you can see. I suppose I might as well start painting the skull off-white. It'll be darker on the underside. It'll be lighter up on the top. I'm going to have to build up some more shadows in here so that I can make this skull be more distinct. It needs to be more distinct from the surrounding fur. I guess I could have done the fur black or something, and then the skull would have really stood out, but I didn't think of that. So we just have to figure out another way to do it. I do have this dark color still sitting on my palette. So what if I put that in the eye sockets to get those nice and dark. And then right there, down here in the nasal, I don't know, whatever you call this, part of the skull. It kind of looks like a skull, but it also kind of doesn't look like a skull. I don't know what kind of skull it would be. Sometimes you just gotta paint what's there and not ask the hard questions. I guess. Because skulls don't look like that. Maybe it's not a skull. Maybe it's just a head. Maybe it's a dog head, and I just thought it was a skull. Well, we're still gonna just paint it like a skull. It'll be fine. I got that blue white sitting here that I used on these things, so I'm gonna use that as my lighter color, and maybe that coolness will give me a little extra contrast here. It'll make this skull stand out a little bit more. It kind of just looks like a head. So now I'm second guessing myself. I'm like, is it really a skull? Maybe. We'll just throw a little straight up white on it too. I'm going to do a thin glaze of white too. And in my thin glaze, I'm going to just watering down some white. Just putting it over the whole thing except for in the eye sockets. I'm still gonna go back and put that dark color in the eye sockets again. So it mostly looks like a skull, sort of. I guess it kind of looks like a wolf head too. So, I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was a skull. Now it looks like a wolf head, sort of like a furless wolf head. But don't laugh, because I feel like a furless wolf head is like a wolf skull, but it doesn't look like a wolf skull. So, hmm. Okay. More fur. I want to get this fur on the cuffs. The boots with the fur. The boots with the fur. With the fur. Gotta get that done. So using the side of the bristles again to pick out the texture of the fur. I like the look of the white fur because it just is a contrast. Now, it would have been fantastic uh, if I were doing a winter fun silly stream. I would totally do the red leather and white fur for fun, just for fun. Cause silly fun. Okay. Oh, let's stab the brush in there and get that fur that's down in the shadows. Cause why not? I just want to get the detail, even though it's in the shadows. I just wanted that detail. Like maybe it could have been darker, but then you would have just lost it altogether. So sometimes you want a lighter color where you think maybe there should be a shadow. Artistic license, right? I'm going to do a little bit of light color at the top of this fur here, like you did up here, that lighter color. And it's going to contrast with that dark line I did that separates the trouser from the fur. So there'd be this nice little clean delineation of those two things. The pants, the fur. there are some places where the detail of the fur just kind of disappears, or it's really hard to get to, and there I'm just putting little dots in with my brush to just give you a sort of a impression of fur. So we got fur there. And now we do the bracer. Ooh, I need to still do the studs on the bracer too. As long as my gray is still up and running here, I'll do some quick dots of gray on this. Not too quick. You don't want to get sloppy. There are just rows of studs on this. Oh, there's laces there. Laces. I'm gonna get some white and some of that green brown and make laces. So this is a really limited palette that I'm using on these. I think maybe I've used 6 colors. I like the idea of a limited palette because the whole thing ends up with this sort of harmony. The whole model, all the different parts look like they belong to the whole as a composition. I'm just kind of stippling a little bit of light color along the edge of the fur on the top of his cuff here to accentuate the texture. Using a little bit of I'm taking advantage of the fact that this is a synthetic brush, and all synthetic brushes tend to form a little hook on the on the tip of the brush. I know a lot of people hate that, but I've learned to use that to my advantage. Alright, so there's one cuff. Then we do the lower one. Oh, then we have to do the fur on his hat. There's so much more fur on this than I thought there was. I thought, wow, I'm just going to do this one fur and then I'm going to be done. No, I have to do the boots. Then, no, I have to do the bracer. No, I have to do the back thing. And I totally forgot that there was fur on his hat still. Still got to do the fur on his hat. But do I do a little white dot on all those studs? I don't know. We'll see. We still have antlers to do. We still have the axe handle and his belt and this crazy little metal belt buckle thing. And the axe head. Still have to finish that non-metallic metal. I need to do a little bit of shading on his boots still. And poor poor Rocky hasn't gotten nearly as much love as Bullwinkle. Could you imagine this guy if his little hat was red and he had a little white fur and a little red skirt with the studded leather and the white fur? He would have been a right jolly old elf, right? Now I want to paint one like that. Totally want to paint one like that now. Alright. Kind of feel like just a little touch up on the fur right there. Oh, underneath here. I didn't even look underneath here. This is how I forget to do fingers and stuff. There's always things underneath. Almost forgot about that. I can't really see it from this angle. It's where you just have to shove your brush into the shadows and hope for the best. Well, we've gotten pretty far on him. And I do have the same color I used for the lace on his bracer that I can use on his boots. It's a very basic lace. And what's this on the back of his boots? We're just gonna throw this color on that as a highlight. As long as we have it sitting on our palette. And I'm going to use the dark version of this color as shadow. So that is going to be a different brown than the boots themselves. This weird heel thing, heel cap. So he's got these little heel caps here. I almost wish he had toe caps too, but nope. I could throw another highlight color on there, or it's almost time for me to say goodnight. It is time for me to say goodnight. So thank you everybody for tuning in to Cathy Paints on Gen Con TV. I appreciate everybody who's hanging out here and making comments and asking questions and and lurking in the shadows. We appreciate the lurkers in the shadows. Have a good night, everybody. And I will see you next week right here for Cathy Paints. And then I'm going to look for my outro because I'm a pro streamer. Good night, everybody.